Thank you for joining us for the Blackbaud webinar on best practices for engaging major donors in 2021 and beyond. I'm Robin Thompson, and there were some questions that we didn't have time to answer, so I wanted to follow up and answer some of your questions. One was, I would love to hear how to find major gift donors in the community. Well, there's a lot of different ways to do that. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, and there is an exclusive home development here. And one of the things she said was that she went to the county, found the names of people who had owned those houses, and found people who had family foundations or family trusts, and did some research on them to see who may be interested in giving money to private independent schools. Another way is that there's something called Foundation Directory online, and they not only list granting foundations, but they list private family foundations. And our local library did have a subscription to that. So that's another way that you can put in things that relate to education, and if you're K through 12 or you're high school, and you can put in specific filters in there, and it will come up with names of people who have given to other similar things as your school. Another question was, I would like broader recommendations for organizations in the K-12 space that aren't schools that provide services to schools for K through 12. One of the ways that I think that you as a service organization could really support K through 12 schools is finding ways that organizations, companies that may be supportive of that school. For instance, let's say you go to your bank, and as you're talking to your banker, you know that education is important to them. Do they give scholarships for this school? So could you connect them with the school? Now, if you service K through 12 schools and you're a nonprofit, one of the ways that you could help them, of course, is volunteers. Are there volunteers for your organization that would like to work with the school? We have a number of nonprofits here in Eagle County, Colorado that do support schools in ways that they will provide an award for teachers each year. So they have a ceremony. Well, back before COVID, they had a live ceremony where they presented teachers with awards. It may be that somehow you're able to give money for things in the classroom. There's a lot of different ways that you, as a nonprofit who supports K through 12 private education, can help. And one of the ways is just go in and talk to the head of the school, go in and talk to the headmaster and say, you know, what do the teachers need? We got a lot of involvement from parents who wanted to see their kids have a great STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and management. And so because of that, they were willing to give money for things like a 3D printer. Next question, talk more about the case statement. One of the things that I have noticed, especially with independent and private schools, is they don't have a case statement. And their website doesn't do a really good job of describing how it makes an impact for the students to go to school there. Most of the time, the K through 12 websites are meant to be a way to attract potential students, which, I mean, that makes sense. But what I think independent schools need to do is have a donor alumni, at least a page of your website, so that you can direct them to that page, and it's specifically talking to them. It's not talking to, hey, we've got the best campus ever, come to our school. You know, if you're getting ready to go into the 9th grade, we want to talk to you. That's great for recruiting students, but it's not good if you're working to get donations from donors. So what your case statement needs to be is one that describes how you're making a difference in these kids' lives. And so it's telling stories about these kids. And again, even if you have to change the names, it's kids that have done everything to to be able to attend your school. We had one little boy who's, we were a Christian high school, and we had one little boy whose parents did not identify with any particular religion. And he, when we had an open house, an admissions open house, he walked 3 miles down a highway to get to the open house because he wanted to talk to people that could help him talk his parents into enrolling him in the school. And they ended up enrolling him in the school. But what we did was we took our admissions brochure, let's say, and we created a case statement that was very similar to that admissions packet. And it was about a 17-page document. And you know, you have all the admission information on there, how many kids you have, you know, what percentage of them gets financial assistance. And we take those, right? And we make our case statement because that's important to a donor, what's in the admissions brochure, but it's not speaking to them. What's speaking to a donor is that case for support. And it's talking about other donors who are supporting the organization so that a donor feels like that they're joining the people who are already giving to the school. It is an impact statement. So just kind of keep that in mind. Next question. What suggestions do you have for appeals that aren't getting much response? And this is appeal season right now. I don't know about you, but my mailbox is full every day of appeals, and I'm glad that nonprofits are doing that. But I just helped a school with an appeal letter, and the appeal letter was technically correct, but it didn't have that impact, that emotional piece that really got me involved, and to know that the student who is coming to school there is going to be changed. It's going to change their life. And I kind of laugh and say, this is self-serving, because the kids that are in school now are the ones that are going to be taking care of me when I get to be older. And I certainly want to be sure that they're well educated, that we have some good doctors and attorneys that are getting an education right now. And a lot of other donors would also know that. And so make sure your appeal is appealing. Okay, another question. What should we do if we have everything in place that you talked about to raise major gifts, but we still are having trouble raising them? And, you know, during COVID, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because I was talking to somebody in an independent school yesterday, and the development person, and he said, you know, in the past, we have gone out for coffee with somebody, or we've gone to lunch, and we start out, you know, with small talk. How are the kids? What about your dog? Where have you been on vacation? And he said, there's something interesting about talking to people, whether it's Zoom or FaceTime or Google Meets, whatever it is. There's something about this box that we're in that makes things be more professional and down to business, and okay, we're on this, and now we need to get things done. And that small talk has kind of disappeared. So our job is to find a way to have small talk. I mean, maybe if you're going to have a meeting and you send a tea bag and say, hey, make this cup of tea before we have our meeting. Or you might send them a bottle of wine before you schedule a call. Or maybe it's a book, or you send them something and give it something to start that small talk with and get out of the box that it has us in. Okay, another question. Can you give us some suggestions as to how to get teachers involved with fundraising? Well, we are so glad teachers love what they do. They're doing such a good job of being able to be remote and in person. And so when we ask them to help us with fundraising, a lot of times they're like, I've got enough to do. I don't need to put one more thing on my schedule. But here's the thing that we know. The alumni really bond with their teachers. If we can get teachers to do some type of a webinar type thing, that it's a happy hour with our alumni, and the alumni love it when the teachers come on board. Well, what happens then is the teachers get excited and they keep in touch with a lot of these alums. They have some key information that we need. And so if we can get them involved in something like that and then have a discussion with them, because they are going to be able to help. Now, where we were, our present students, the teachers knew who those students were that were carrying the designer backpacks that had designer shoes and clothes. They know that, and so they know which ones of the parents may be able to give at a higher level. Not necessarily the parents are going to give at a higher level, but they may know some of those parents and be able to help with that. If you tell them they don't have to ask for money, you're just asking them for a help for connecting with those parents. Okay, here's the last question. I'd like for you to talk more about how to engage donors and potential donors when we can't meet in person or it's difficult to get them to answer emails. You know, in ways I sound like an iPod that just keeps playing the same lyric over and over and over again. But I say you just need to make it fun. Find a way to create something that engages people from throughout your community, not just parents, grandparents, teachers. Find a way to bring some other people into the fold. What we found that worked really well was when we would have a basketball game, you know, back in the old days, or a soccer game. And people that were parents or neighbors would invite their neighbors. And so now they feel the school spirit and the camaraderie. Or it's just doing something fun. Somebody was telling me the other day that they're in a virtual choir, and we've seen a lot of that happening with schools. But the difference about this one, everyone in this choir is blind. And so they are having to figure out the melody and figure out how do we put all this together. And so maybe it's something that you create along singing or dancing or games, some type of scavenger hunt or something. But make it fun so that people want to engage regardless of whether it's a school or not. Well, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. You can email me, fundraiser@robinthompson.com, and I'll be glad to answer your emails. I'd love to just have a conversation with you and love to hear what is helping you be successful. And have a great end of the year fundraising and stay healthy.